In the very first chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, the very first sorcerer we're introduced to is Megumi Fushiguro. As the son of Toji Zenin, the student of Satoru Gojo, and while possessing a potentially immensely powerful curse technique, the fandom has been quick to claim that Megumi Fushiguro has massive potential, but from what we've seen, he's disappointing. This topic has not only been covered on YouTube, but users on Reddit and TikTok have added their fair share of input. But with the recent chapters, mainly 213 and onwards, it brings new information that outdates anything already covered. With that in mind, I want to preface that this video will not be spoiler friendly, and if you don't want to get spoiled, you've been warned. In this video, I'll be answering the question, does Megumi Fushiguro have strong potential as a sorcerer, and if so, is it a waste? If you enjoyed Jujutsu Kaisen content, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos. As a kid, Megumi's potential as a child of the Zenin clan was recognized nearly immediately. When Toji meets with Naobito, the head of the Zenin clan, to offer up his son in exchange for some cash, Toji says that his son has potential, and if his curse technique manifests around the age of 5 or 6, and it's an inherited technique used by Zenin clan sorcerers in the past, Toji will be expecting a higher pay, implying that inherited technique users have higher potential than ones without. And luckily for Megumi, he possesses the 10 Shadows curse technique. The fanbook explains that the 10 Shadows curse technique is in fact an inherited technique from the Zenin clan, and the caster uses shadows as a medium to summon Shikigami with various prearranged abilities. Since the beginning of the story, many characters aside from Toji and Naobito have seen potential in Megumi outside of just purely being a child of the Zenin clan. During Gojo's talk with Ijichi, he explains his dream to reset the world of Jujutsu. Gojo plans on taking rookie students and fostering them into strong sorcerers. Not only is Megumi one of these students, but Megumi is said to be the lead of new sorcerers that Gojo begins to develop. Gojo also later tells Megumi a story about how the head of the Gojo clan had fought the head of the Zenin clan a while back. He says that a long time ago the clan heads fought to the death, and it led to both of the clans being on bad terms. The Gojo clan head was blessed with the limitless curse technique and 6 eyes like Satoru, and the Zenin clan head possessed the 10 shadows technique like Megumi. Gojo says this to imply that one day Megumi has the potential to surpass Gojo himself, illustrating how powerful the curse technique 10 shadows is in the right hands. The 10 shadows curse technique allows the caster to summon a variety of Shikigami from the shadows they cast. Developing and evolving the 10 shadows curse technique starts when the user receives 2 divine dogs. With the help of the divine dogs, they can summon other Shikigami to start a ritual and defeat them in battle. Once defeated, the 10 shadow user can summon other Shikigami at will by using various hand signs to create shadow puppets. And by using the shadow as a medium, they spawn Shikigami. The 10 shadow user can claim up to 10 shadows like the name suggests. When attempting to capture a Shikigami by summoning them in order to defeat them, other people may help exercise the Shikigami once summoned. Although according to Megumi, this results in the technique being nullified once the ritual is complete. But with the exception of Unknown Abyss, Megumi's 10 Shikigami cannot be summoned again after being destroyed. But the curse technique and power the other Shikigami leave behind when destroyed are inherited by other Shikigami. For example, Megumi's Great Serpent and Megumi's White Divine Dog become Totality. This Divine Dog Totality in particular is the one that damages Hanami. Megumi's arsenal of Shikigami consists out of 6 out of the 10 Shikigami he can hold. His Divine Dogs are the first Shikigami he's obtained, like I've already mentioned. Megumi's Divine Dogs are not weak by any means. They're able to damage people like the Finger Bearers all the way to people as durable as Hanami. The fanbook says that the Divine Dogs possess high agility and excellent sensing capabilities. He's also able to summon a giant bird called Nue. It's an extremely fast Shikigami that can get Megumi out of tough situations, and strikes its opponents with electric shock. Toad is just like how the name suggests, a frog Shikigami that can use its tongue to strike opponents and grab them and throw them into large objects. It can also store people inside of his mouth. The Great Serpent is a giant snake Shikigami that strikes from the ground below. It can grab opponents and hold them in place while other Shikigami attack. Although this Shikigami is short-lived, as Sukuna destroys it and we never see it ever again. Megumi's Max Elephant is a giant elephant Shikigami that he can summon that shoots a giant blast of water at Megumi's opponents. Max Elephant in particular takes a massive amount of cursed energy to summon. The Rabbit Shikigami is the last Shikigami that Megumi has in his arsenal, and he's able to spawn hundreds of rabbits that can serve as a distraction, or they can surround Megumi to hide his location in the swarm, as he does against Toji. The main reason for that long-winded explanation on Megumi's 10 shadows was to put in perspective of how diverse Megumi's arsenal has become, unlike someone like Yuji who doesn't have much variety in his attacks. Megumi's curse technique allows him to be diverse and surprises opponents like Awasaka, Reggie, and Hanami. Aside from the Shikigami he's tamed, he's also able to use his curse technique to hide in his opponent's shadows, allowing him to sneak up and strike his enemies. Megumi is also an extremely calculated fighter, and he's able to employ this into his curse technique beautifully. During his encounter with Toji in Shibuya, Megumi begins to break down the situation in his head, and he explains that the best advantage is that Shoku is here with him in Shibuya. Megumi realizes that he needs to save the rest of the Shikigami for upcoming fights, and that Toji is the same guy that took out Dagon with his speed that rivals Sukuna. With the alleyway being a narrow lane and the only lane for Toji to cross to reach Megumi, Megumi realizes that his best course of action is to predict Toji's attack and divert its path, and take the damage he'll receive anyways to counterattack Toji. Although one thing that seems to hold Megumi back is not his curse technique, but his mindset. The best example that we have for this is during his fight against the second Finger Bear. After Megumi is knocked out, we're shown a scene of Megumi being trained by Gojo. Megumi had asked Gojo to train him after feeling pressured after seeing Yuji's growth. growth. Gojo flat out tells Megumi that his potential is higher than Yuji, but what holds Megumi back is the mental aspect. Gojo tells Megumi that he doesn't know how to bring out his best self. For example, during the baseball game, while Megumi played the safe option and bunted the ball to make sure Nobara could advance, someone like Yuji is always swinging for the fences. While in a game of baseball, a sacrifice bunt isn't a bad move. Baseball is a team sport where everyone is expected to play their role, but being a Jujutsu sorcerer is an individual sport. While coordinating with allies is important, Gojo says, no matter what, you'll always end up dying alone. Right now, Megumi can only judge and match people around him rather than picturing a stronger version of himself. Megumi, up until this point, when faced with an extremely tough situation, he resorts to summoning his strongest Shikigami in his arsenal, Mahoraga. We see this happen twice before this encounter. The first is after Yuji had eaten one of Sukuna's fingers and Sukuna began to incarnate inside of Yuji, and the second time was in his fight against Sukuna after he ran from the first finger bearer. Although Mahoraga is extremely strong, he's untamed, meaning when Megumi summons Mahoraga, it begins the ritual to defeat and tame the Shikigami like we discussed earlier, and if he can't defeat the Shikigami, he'll likely die. Gojo says that Mahoraga is the ace up Megumi's sleeve, that Megumi thinks that in the worst case scenario, if he were to summon Mahoraga to sacrifice himself in order to save his friends, his death would make things end well. But Gojo says if Megumi keeps thinking like that, he'll never match up to him or even Nanami. Winning by dying and winning even if you die are two completely different things that Megumi has to understand. When Megumi wakes back up, he begins making the hand signs to summon Mahoraga. The finger bearer realizes this and runs away, but Megumi remembers Sukuna calling him a wasted treasure. Instead, Megumi begins asking himself why he ran last time he fought another finger bearer. Instead of summoning Mahoraga and sacrificing himself, he begins to try something else. He begins taking Gojo's advice and pictures a stronger version of himself that surpassed his limits. And for the first time, Megumi opens up his domain expansion. Megumi's domain expansion is called Chimera Shadow Garden. The fanbook describes Megumi's domain expansion as basically a swamp of shadows where the 10 Shadows curse technique can be used at its fullest potential. During his fight with the finger bearer, Megumi's domain is incomplete, but nonetheless Megumi is able to increase his technique's interpretation and usefulness. In a cover for chapter 171, Megumi's domain is called the ace up his sleeve, while before, Mahoraga is what Gojo called Megumi's ace up his sleeve, displaying how powerful this ability really is for Megumi. The incomplete factor for Megumi's domain expansion is the missing barrier that all domains possess. The missing barrier stops Megumi from actually incorporating a can't miss attack into his domain. This also makes Megumi forced to find an enclosed space to use domain expansion to act as an artificial barrier. Without an artificial barrier, people could just run away because there's nothing to keep them inside, making domain expansion a near useless move. Because of this, Megumi's domain just serves to extend the 10 Shadows technique to 120% of its potential. Domain counters like Simple Domain and Hollow Wicker Basket neutralize the barriers around the domain to nullify the guaranteed hit effect. This is the exact scenario that caught Reggie off guard during his fight with Megumi. Because of this, Reggie's Hollow Wicker Basket failed. Reggie even considers this worse than a can't miss attack for anybody trapped inside Megumi's domain like he is. While Megumi is able to make use of his curse technique and has the potential to become a great sorcerer, I don't think he's exactly there yet. When we compare how somebody like Sukuna makes use of the 10 Shadows, there's a clear difference in skill in how both of them use the curse technique. When Sukuna summons some of his Shikigami, he doesn't give them a stable form. This gives the Shikigami a higher range to operate and prevents the form from being destroyed. The drawback is that the Shikigami cannot operate independently, therefore compromising its offensive strength. However, Sukuna's cursed energy output is so high that he can make up for it. Sukuna also has a multitude of other Shikigami that Megumi never uses and probably has never tamed. The round deer is a Shikigami with the ability to use reverse curse technique. The deer can be used to heal Sukuna, but also as we see during his fight with Yorozu, the round deer used its reverse curse technique to neutralize the flow of cursed energy flowing through liquid metal. Another Shikigami that Sukuna uses is Piercing Ox. Although Piercing Ox can only travel in a straight line, the farther it runs, the stronger its strike becomes. Sukuna can also use Megumi's normal Shikigami like the Toads and Divine Dog, but out of all the improvements Sukuna has made to the 10 Shadows, nothing surpasses his improvement to Mahoraga. What makes Mahoraga so powerful, as many of you know, is his ability to adapt to any phenomena by turning the wheel on his head. Throughout Sukuna's fight with Yorozu, Sukuna mysteriously had the same wheel on top of his head that Mahoraga uses to adapt. Yorozu uses her curse technique creation to create a perfect sphere. It's said to be impossible to create a truly perfect shape, but these objects have an infinitely small point of contact, which generates infinite pressure along its surface. Yorozu then opens up her domain expansion, but Sukuna just stands there and turns the wheel on his head. While Yorozu is confused, she wonders why he's not opening up his own domain, even though her attack will eviscerate Sukuna and it's a can't miss. Suddenly, Sukuna opens a shadow and drops the wheel that was on top of his head for the entire fight, and summons Mahoraga, who in one strike breaks down Yorozu's entire domain expansion, including the perfect sphere. Sukuna is an example of how far the potential of the 10 Shadows really goes. Megumi has the potential to be an extremely strong sorcerer, but judging by his current state in the manga, I don't know if he'd ever be able to act on that potential. Megumi needs more opportunity to develop his curse technique and his domain expansion, but as of right now, he's sadly a waste of potential. If you enjoyed Jujutsu Kaisen, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel and comment on some video ideas you want to see be done in the near future.